screen and I'll start talking about our software, iMazing. Okay. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Before I go back to iMazing, this is the keynote I've prepared, Introduction to Local iOS Data Management with iMazing. The title is important because as of now, iMazing is really about local data. You have iCloud already. iCloud works really well, and our goal is not at all to replace iCloud. We are about local provisioning, management, data transfer, backups. It's about your computer, your own storage, and your iOS and iPadOS devices. So who are we? We are DigiDNA. We're a tiny, privately owned company founded in 2008 in Geneva, Switzerland. We were founded by the developers, so technical people at the head of the company, and all of us real Apple fans. Our lead developer's nickname is MacMade, so that should tell you plenty. We have a nice little collection from his that he loaned to the office with old Macs and old Apple computers all the way back to the early 80s. So that's pretty nice to have at the office. And now our core mission has been from the very beginning to extend Apple's ecosystem without going against the grain. We just aim to offer things that Apple does not offer or does not offer anymore. So we respect Apple's security. We do our best to play by the rules, and we do play by the rules. But it's more about workflows and doing things in a different way, or doing things that are possible, but that Apple doesn't expose to users. So we'll go into more detail about this, extending Apple's ecosystem. What do we mean about this? Often we have this catchphrase, take control of your iOS data. What does that even mean? Is it just marketing, or is there an actual reasoning behind this marketing blurb? And manage your iPhone your way. Likewise, what do these mean? And I hope by the end of the talk, you'll agree with me that they're not just empty catchphrases, and that we really abide by those principles. Now, in 2008 and a few years after that, when the iPod was released, people started to get this problem with the sync of their library to the iPod. If you would try to connect your iPod to another iTunes library than yours, it would show this message. Basically, iTunes is selfish. It doesn't want to add something to your iPod. It just wants to sync your entire library to the iPod. And if there's another library on this iPod, well, tough luck for you. It will just erase the whole thing and start over again, and you can lose tons of songs. And so this problem is actually exactly why we started as a company. We made a tiny utility that lets you get the music out of the iPod and back on the computer. Which completely made sense because iPods very quickly, could hold tens of gigabytes of songs, and it was not uncommon to see users who had a big library synced to the iPod, and then the hard drive crashes, and all the music library is on the iPod and cannot be retrieved. And so that was the very first case for our initial tool called TuneAid. Basically, this tool in 2008 lets you rebuild your iTunes library from a library that was on an iPod. And this took off like a wildfire. It really immediately was a huge success. And from then on, we found this position in the Apple ecosystem of enabling users to do things that should be simple, but that just Apple doesn't provide the tools for. So in the 13 years following this, we've been adding more and more. Luckily, when we launched TuneAid, just about at the same time, Apple launched the iPhone, which was a huge success. And we were the first utility to provide file transfer tools for the iPhone. The very first file transfer tools would just let you use the iPhone as a USB drive if you wanted, or send files to apps or retrieve files from apps. That's the file transfer here. And then year after year, we've kept adding more and more features, photo management and application management, backup, restore, messages, WhatsApp, voicemail, call history, voice memos, all the data sets that you see here and all the features that you see here have been added over the years. And they've been added as a result of an ongoing conversation between us and our users. Really, our core philosophy is to listen to user feedback and to always try to understand what is missing, what are users not happy with currently, and how can we provide tools that make their lives easier. Okay, and this is iMazing today. I hope you'll agree that it's slightly more attractive than this. So you see the way the UI is structured. In the left sidebar here, you have devices and backups. In the UI paradigm that we chose for iMazing 2, a device and a backup are nearly equivalent. This is because a backup is really an image of the device, and most of the data that you can access via iMazing is actually pulled from the backup. So we have devices available or disconnected, and we have backups. A device is also a backup if you've performed a backup with that device. If you disconnect the device and say, I don't want to connect this to iMazing anymore, if the device has a backup, it will move and you will see it in all backups here. And it's slightly grayed out, as you can see. That's supposed to convey the fact that it's not an active device, but an image of a device. Okay. Now, the big questions are, who uses iMazing and why? I'm saying extending Apple's ecosystem. Well, for many users, there's absolutely no need to extend anything. They're perfectly happy with Apple's ecosystem as it is today. So it's interesting to go into more detail to see, well, who are those users who seek solutions such as ours, and what are the precise problems that we answer? There's 4 broad categories of problems, and these are the 4 chunks I'll divide my talk in, and I'll illustrate with a demo of the product at the end of every chunk and take questions as well. The first category is unique features. So features that you cannot find in Apple's ecosystem at all. 2 is simpler workflows. We talked about the sync workflow. iTunes, especially at the beginning, was notoriously needlessly complicated. If you just wanted to add a song to your iPod, you couldn't just add a song. You had to go through an entire sync and to configure everything. It got better with time, but so simple workflows. You should be able to take a file from A to B and B to A. Data ownership, that will be the subject of a more detailed explanation a bit later on. But what does it mean to own data if everything is a service and there's no transparency? We believe that returning transparency to the user to expose the data structures, the file system, this transparency can contribute to a greater sense of data ownership. We're not just consumers, we are hopefully intelligent consumers who are aware of what our data is, how it is stored, what is in the cloud, what is on the device. In order for that to be possible, we need more transparency. Then smarter backups. We have a backup versioning system today that is much more powerful than what Apple's vanilla Finder backups offer, and I'll be touching upon that later as well. Before I move on, I will just take a couple of questions, stop sharing, and take a few questions right now before I move on to the broad use cases and illustrate them. Is there anyone?
It doesn't look like it. Guys, do feel free, please, to unmute and ask a question if you'd like to.
I have a question.
Sure.
Carl.
Yeah. So I had quite a few albums, songs on my iPhone, and I thought they were on my computer. The iPhone's a 12 Pro running 15.1. I haven't updated Monterey yet, but I will probably later today. But those songs somehow are gone. And if I plug my phone in, connect it with a cable to my MacBook Air, now it says I can't see this phone. And so if you're having problems with the phone, you can restore it. But I'm not having any problems with the phone. So I guess a couple of questions, and maybe I'll learn more as we go. But is there some way I can recover those songs that were one time on my MacBook Air? I don't know where they went. And is there some way that I can once again connect my phone to my MacBook Air without going through a Apple restore process?
Yes, well, it sounds like there may be just one or two corrupted files on the phone that the finder thinks are signs of a phone needing repair. This can happen, it's rare, but I've heard of it before. iMazing, if you connect the phone to iMazing instead, it will not tell you that the phone needs a restore. And you can browse with iMazing either the music library or the file system to see if you can recover your tracks from there. What I would need to know before I can help any further is, were those tracks that you downloaded with Apple Music or tracks that you synchronized from your Mac? What's the source of the tracks in question?
The source of the tracks came from CDs that I had purchased in years past.
Okay, so in that case, they would not be protected by digital rights management. They would be files that are not encrypted, and you should be able to recover the files if they're still on the device. I can quickly show you how you would do this in iMazing. You do not need to buy a license for this, by the way. You can just download the free version and already just try to see what you can find. So you connect your phone, you will be asked to enter the passcode on your phone in order to establish the trust relationship with the computer. Same thing as when you connect your phone to iTunes or the Finder. Then your phone will appear in the sidebar here, and you can click first on music and see what iMazing makes of your phone's music library. It will display the music library here. You'll see there if the music is on it or not. And we have this little checkbox here labeled only show transferable media. So if you uncheck it, iMazing will also list songs that are in the cloud or Apple Music songs, which you cannot transfer. Apple Music songs, because they're protected by DRM, they're all encrypted. And iCloud Music Library songs or songs you've purchased but haven't downloaded yet also are not transferable because obviously they're not on the phone. So in that way, you'll be able to determine the songs that you're looking for. Are they just in the cloud or are they considered as Apple Music? Because sometimes this happens. It's a bit of a bug that's super annoying where Apple suddenly will determine that, this is an Apple Music song. It's not yours anymore. That can happen. It's rare, but I have a few cases in my own library. So that's the first thing to do. And if your songs don't show up here, you can go into the file system section, into media, and in there, iTunes Control holds all the music files. So you can just see what you can recover from there. If there are any tracks, you see that I have very little tracks that are actually syncable, but I have a few. They all have names that make no sense, but you can copy that to the computer and re-import to your library. Ideally, you would find the songs in music, and that would let iMazing export them with all the metadata, the artist, the artwork. Otherwise, file system is a good bet to go and rummage around and see if you can recover something.
Thank you very much.
And don't hesitate, if you try this with iMazing, you'll see in the free trial, you can do a few exports. So you can just take a file and drag and drop it to the desktop, and that's done. You'll be able to do like 10, I think, of those. So as you rummage around, don't burn all your trial, you can just get in touch with us at imazing.com/contact, and we can help you also try to recover anything that would be recoverable.
Thanks again.
Okay. Is there anyone else? So I will go back to the keynote. Start sharing again. Can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah. So the first broad category of features is unique features for which Apple doesn't provide any solution. We talked about recovering music from iPhone or iPod, and your intervention was a good one, very apropos. The same thing can happen with photos. If you sync photos to synced albums, the From My Mac albums on the phone, Apple applies the same sync paradigm where the idea is that the photo library is on the computer, so there's no way to recover the photo albums from the iPhone or the iPad. Same thing here, iMazing can let you recover photos that you've synced manually to an iPhone, iPad, and if you've lost them from the computer, you can recover them with iMazing. Then you have things like printing messages. You would be surprised how useful that can be. It can be for simply romantic purposes. We see more and more youths getting married, and they want to surprise their loved one with the little booklets of the messages they exchanged and how lovely they were, for example. And on the flip side, it's also used a lot by lawyers in all sorts of harassment cases or custody cases. So messages have become extremely important legally. There's also requirements for lawyers and for financial institutions to preserve archives of electronic communications with their clients, and that includes messaging data. So being able to print messages is very important. We can also download and manage apps. You probably remember when iTunes could do that. Then suddenly iTunes couldn't do it anymore. They decided that app management wasn't so useful anymore. And we immediately got to work and tried for about 2 weeks to figure out if there was a way for us to connect to the App Store and download apps within the legal context of your Apple ID, download apps that you've already acquired, of course. And it turned out that it was possible. And we are able in iMazing to offer you that which does not exist in iTunes, the Finder anymore, a local app library. Why is that interesting? If you have a local app library, you can hang on to previous versions of apps. So as you upgrade an app, you could keep every single version. And if there's an app you really depend on and suddenly it's buggy, it doesn't work anymore, you could always revert to a previous version, for example. Or if you need to install the same app on 100 devices, if you're an admin in a school, for example, you could download it once and install it 100 times and not clog the Wi-Fi network. Of course, there are caching servers for that as well, but not all admins have set that up. So it can be interesting to have a local app library. It was even used recently to install apps that are not on the App Store anymore, and famously Fortnite. I don't know if any of you have followed the Epic versus Apple trial. And in the middle of that, iMazing popped up as a way for gamers to install Fortnite after Apple pulled it from the App Store. So that was quite fun for us. It's not something we intended to happen, but it was a byproduct of the tools that we have in iMazing. Now, another very popular feature is the backup to an external drive. Maddeningly, well, now we understand why, but you cannot use the Finder to make a local backup to anywhere else but the Apple chosen location. And of course, storage is limited and is very expensive on MacBooks today. Add an extra terabyte of SSD will cost you 400, 500 pounds. So being able to back up those those devices which now have 512 1 terabyte of storage to somewhere else than just the local computer storage. That's very, very useful. So I'll talk about that more later, but with iMazing, you can back up to external storage, including network attached storage. I talked about apps. We have fixing corrupted iOS issues. So this is also a very big thing in iMazing. Troubleshooting. We have access to logs. We can try to reinstall the OS without erasing. We can go into the backup logs to try to understand why a backup is failing. So we have over the years helped users, just save their data, because we would go to a genius at an Apple store who would just say, "Oh, sorry, it's lost. So you just have to start over." And we have the time and the passion to go into a bit more detail than that, and to at least try to do a bit more than just call it quits and say, "Oh, well, erase your device and start over." Okay, so for the demo of that section, I will maybe show the app library, or would you like to see the recovery of photos? What is more interesting to?
Library.
What is more, I'm sorry, I'm going to stop the share. Yep. Is there something that you would like me to focus on in more detail here?
I'd like to see recovery photos.
Yeah, recovering photos.
Same here, thank you.
Okay.
And I'd like to see recovering music.
Yeah, okay. So it's about the same. Okay, let me share my screen again. And now we have iMazing. So I'll go into the photos view. This is a view we're very proud of, because we've completely rebuilt it from the ground up about a year and a half ago. And we're very proud of it, because it streams the photo library straight from the phone. So what you're seeing here is not on the computer. We're actually streaming from the phone all these photos, and you can double click. Oh, it's my COVID certificate. How appropriate. Okay. You see it's very performant. You can go all the way back in time, or to a very recent photo, and it just works totally fine. You can go into detail views, and you get videos playing inline. You get tons of metadata here. My daughter is pulling her tongue to me. Yeah, typical. Tons of metadata about the assets. You can even double click on the map here, and that will open Google Maps. So bear in mind that compared to Apple Photos app, here we are even before you sync anything or you transfer anything. It's really viewing the iPhone's library without transferring it to the computer, but streaming it from the iPhone. If you were to want to recover albums, you could just take an album here in the sidebar and simply drag and drop it to the desktop, and that's done. It's not more complicated than this. And that will transfer the entire album to the desktop. So if you are syncing albums, I mentioned the From My Mac album before. Let's add a picture or two here. I'll just do a silly example. I'll move one photo here, and let me open a Finder window, and I'll make an album with that photo. So we have this picture of my daughter, and sorry about that. I need to go into the library. I can just drag and drop it in there, and it will say, okay, well, create a new photo album. This is my daughter. And this is the same as syncing photos with the Finder. It creates the synced album on your iPhone. Now remember, synced albums are a bit unwieldy. They're an old tech that Apple put in place already in iOS 5, I think. So you cannot edit a synced album from the iPhone itself. It's really a sync paradigm. And here is my synced album. So this would appear on my phone. You would see it in the From My Mac albums. I'm just making this bigger. So that's the From My Mac album called My Daughter, and you have the picture in here. And I see there was a little thumbnail issue here. I'll report that to the developer in charge. Excuse me, I'm debugging as I go. Sorry, it's a real live demo, so I will find some issues. Thumbnail not cached correctly after album creation. Okay, macOS. Okay, CG. Okay, apologies for this. So the thumbnail looks like it's wrong here. I could clear the cache. It's a cache issue of a cache thumbnail. I could clear the cache and that the issue would go away, but I want to leave it here to show the developer in charge and try not to blame him, but to get him to fix it nicely. So yeah, that's an album that it is from my Mac category. This would be unrecoverable with iTunes or with the Finder, and with iMazing, it's just a matter of drag and dropping the entire album, or drag and dropping the picture, or you can also use the export buttons at the bottom left. And here you have more export options. So you have multiple. Yes.
When you do that, to get that on your phone, you would have to then go in and sync the photos to your phone. Is that correct?
No, so here I'm, as I said before, I'm really browsing the library of the phone itself. There's no sync.
Okay,
and
great. So
if I add something to this, it got fixed by itself. Okay. Somehow the view refreshed. So anything I drag and drop in here will get added to this album, and this is on the phone. It's live. You see, if I, sorry, I'll quit sharing and I'll show you what it looks like on the phone itself. Just a sec. Where is my zoom? It's hiding somewhere. Oh, stop share. And I'll just show you very quickly what it looks like on the phone when I do this. Oops. Albums. If you can make sense of it. So see all up. It from my Mac. See, okay. I'm in the Photos app, and you can see the from my Mac category with the album I just synced now.
Great. So if that's what you've done, and you're on iCloud with your photos, is that also going to sync up to iCloud?
No, a synced album it's really the from my Mac section. It has nothing to do with iCloud. That's why you also should be a bit careful with those synced albums. They're not included in backups. The idea is just put something on the iPad to show around. It's not a way to store photos on the long term. Synced albums are really, excuse me, my kids are coming in. Abel, je viens après, ok? Tu peux fermer? Vas-y, ferme la porte. Apologies for that. Yeah, so synced albums may not be what you think they are. You have to know a little bit about them before you use them. It's really a way to put photos without any consideration of photo library or cloud. You put photos on an iPad or an iPhone for the lifetime of that device. It doesn't transfer to iCloud, it doesn't go to other devices. And we're demonstrating this. I'm not advising that you use sync photos. The main use today, I would say, is to recover synced albums. If you have an old iPad somewhere, or if you still use the Finder Sync for photos, and you've lost photos on the computer, but they're still on an iOS device, you could use iMazing to recover them. That was the starting point of that particular demo.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Are there any other questions related to these unique features?
You were going to do music too?
Oh, yes, of course. My pleasure. So I showed that a tiny bit before. I'll show it again. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so music. I feel a bit conflicted about showing you this music view because we are literally weeks away, maybe a couple of weeks away from releasing a brand new UI for this that will show the album art and will be, about 1 gazillion times more beautiful to look at. But functionally, it's similar. This shows your music library, the iPhone's music library. As I showed before, you have this checkbox here. Excuse me, only show transferable media. If you have it checked, you would only see stuff that you can export to the computer. If you uncheck it, you'll also see stuff that's in iCloud or that is Apple Music, which you cannot transfer, all the grayed out songs. So you look at the music library and maybe you want to, I don't know, I'm a classical music buff. I'm a pianist by formation. That's what I studied. So I will go for Victoria Mullova, the sonatas and partitas. I can select everything and export to a folder. The items to export here, I choose my selection and not the entire library. Organize in folders, yes, I want iMazing to create folders for artists and albums. I click next. Yes, okay, I'll export to downloads. And you see the operation pop over here, popping up. It's transferring the items. And I get a warning that I was expecting about DRM. One of the tracks there, I played it on Apple Music recently. And what I was talking to you about before, suddenly Apple replaced my track by an Apple Music track, which is not playable anymore. So this may happen. Luckily, it only happened for one track on that album, and I still have the album. But if you want to be safe and you have a device on which there's a ton of your own music that you ripped from CDs, do not sign into Apple Music. Do not enable Apple Music or listen to anything on that device. If you want to recover, it's better to just leave Apple Music alone until you've recovered everything that you want to recover. The operation is finished. I could click here on the little magnifying glass to reveal in the Finder. Sorry, I'm centering this. And there you go. iMazing created the folder for the artists, for the album, and you have all the tracks ready to be played here.
So I'm a little confused here. Presumably, this would be the most valuable if your computer has crashed and you have your music library on your phone, which
Absolutely.
I do. I have my entire music library on my phone.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so say the computer has crashed. Hasn't iMazing also crashed? And so
it doesn't matter. I mean,
is this presumably an Armageddon scenario where you get a new computer and you download the music from your phone to the new computer? Is that what we're talking about?
Well, you shouldn't confuse what you're seeing in iMazing as being in iMazing. What you're seeing here is just music that is on well, on my iPhone here. So until I've exported it, it's not in iMazing yet. So what you're talking about, this Armageddon scenario, iMazing wouldn't be affected in itself by the crash of your computer. Only data you've exported would be affected.
Isn't iMazing a piece of software on your computer?
Yeah, but if your computer crashes, it doesn't really matter. You can reinstall it on another computer. It doesn't hold the data by default.
Okay.
It lets you browse the data and extract it to various places. I see someone raised his hand.
Yeah, hi. I
Hello.
uploaded all my CD music to iTunes a long time ago, and then I joined iTunes Match because I heard that they replaced the quality you have with studio quality. Yeah. And I've heard you can download those studio high quality tracks to your Mac or elsewhere. How do you do that? Can I do that through iMazing?
I would use iTunes to do that because you're in the context of an Apple service. To do it with iMazing, you would, I imagine, just make sure that the track is on your iPhone and then use iMazing to extract it from the phone. But it doesn't really make sense to use a cloud service, download to the phone, and then extract from the phone to the
download
computer.
it. How will I download it to my Mac from iCloud?
To the Mac, presumably you would use iTunes. The music app now. Sorry, I'm still
Music.
stuck in the past. Yeah.
I just haven't seen an option where I can do that on the music app.
Well, iTunes Match is a weird one because it's not really maintained anymore. It was Apple's proposal for an iCloud music library service before it actually happened. And yeah, is it still even exposed in the music app's UI? I'm not quite sure. This would be something I'd have to research. I cannot give you a straight up answer.
Okay, thank you
on
very
iTunes Match, but I feel for you because we do also have a few colleagues who did subscribe to iTunes Match, and it didn't last for that long until they just offered a new service, and that was iCloud Music Library and Apple Music. So iTunes Match is kind of stuck between the legacy local management and the newer streaming and cloud-based services.
I'm sorry, I have a question about this.
very much.
It's sort of the same issue. I have an iTunes library on my old laptop, and I've got a new laptop now. And I went into iTunes thinking all my things would be there, and it says there's nothing in the library. I mean, nothing. Now, have I lost everything that's on the old computer? And I assume iMazing can't do anything about this.
Well, is the old computer still in your possession?
Yes.
Okay, so then you haven't lost anything yet, presumably. So this could be simply because on the old computer you did not enable iCloud Music Sync, for example, iCloud Music Library, and so the library is local to the computer. And if you didn't back up the computer and restore it to the new one, or use the migration assistant to set up your new computer, then there's no reason why the data would have moved over. It's either via the cloud or via a local data transfer. But if you don't have either, then yeah, the library would get stuck on the previous device.
So there's no way I can do anything now to.
Oh yeah, sure. You can. You have two solutions. The first one is to enable iCloud Music Library, and this would upload your entire library to iCloud. And then on the new Mac, you would sign into the same iCloud account, and your library should be there. It would take a while. I would update the older Mac as far as it can go before I do that, to make sure that the two Macs are as close as possible to each other in terms of macOS version.
I'm afraid they're not going to be. I think I was on, I think it was the one after Snow Leopard.
Yeah, so in that case, if it's that ancient, two things. One, you can try, there are some dedicated tools that you could try. You can actually copy your entire library, move it to a hard drive, and then back. But then would that be still compatible with the newer music library formats? I'm not entirely sure. The other things you can do is just take all the songs themselves, the music files, and re-import them in the new library. You would lose playlists though. So you have a few options, but this is not really the scope of iMazing, which is really a tool that relates to mobile devices,
right?
iPhone and iPad.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question about iMazing and storage and time. I firstly thank you so much for coming out with it. It has saved me a zillion times. And I give a presentation to my local user group in Florida, in the US, every year. And iMazing is a real strong part of it. I couldn't live without it. Anyway, I got a terabyte 13 already because I don't trust clouds. I have my music in it, my photos on it. It's 400 gigabytes right now. I tried making a backup with iMazing, and firstly, the first time, then by the next day, my computer froze. And then another time I tried it, and on finishing backup, it just went on for a day. And I said, well, that's not going to work. So what should I expect with something that big? Now, I'm using external storage, of course. I'm interested, though, in, do you store everything? Or if it's 400 gigs, are you storing 400 gigs? And then secondly, how do I get past my problem to make my initial backup?
So the iPhone has 400 gigabytes of storage used. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So the backup would not be 400 gigabytes. It would be presumably smaller because iMazing would not back up the apps themselves, but application data. It would not back up the caches or the temporary files. So there's quite a lot of those 400 gigabytes that would not get backed up. And bear in mind that we don't decide which files get backed up. It's iOS itself that uploads what it wants to upload to the computer. Now, presumably, if it takes so long for the backup to happen, and then it stalls at the end, it can be that the device itself goes into this loop where it started backing up so long ago that by the time it reaches the end of the backup, the state is incoherent because it's been synchronizing with the cloud and doing stuff, or just doing its own stuff. So it does a second pass, and then it can do another one, and just forever spins at this finalizing backup stage. In that stage, it's still iOS which has control of the situation. It's asking us to verify what we backed up, and then it says, oh, but I have another file. Oh, but this is not coherent anymore. I'm going to start over. And so I would ask you to put the iPhone in airplane mode, and to have the external storage drive as performant as could be. SSD would be best.
Well, what I have is like a 70 terabyte worth of Drobo. And unfortunately, it's going on Thunderbolt 2 at this point. So that's what I have.
I remember, David, we had a few conversations about it. You and I, via support, we already communicated quite a bit. Yeah,
that's right. But not this problem. You've solved many other problems for me, and I thank you for that.
You're one of our most demanding users with absolutely huge amounts of data, and I remember you very well because you really use the software to its limits. So it's really nice to see that iMazing can get pushed to its limits and is being used that extensively by some users. The backup issue with that slow backup, we have another way of dealing with it now. We're working on partial backups, which would let backups be smaller. Basically, we would make non-restorable backups that just contain the data that iMazing displays. And these will be much, much tinier. That could solve some of your problem, but it depends what your goal is. Is your goal data archival, or is your goal to have a restorable backup?
My goal is really to have a restorable backup.
Okay, so then that would not help, unfortunately.
Well, let me ask you, I mean, should I just try it in safety mode, just try and run as few things as possible, or am I just barking up the wrong tree? It's just too much data at this point.
Well, it's supposed to work. It's more and more difficult as devices get bigger, but if you're on Thunderbolt 3, you mentioned Thunderbolt 2, for me, that would be the first thing to try, Thunderbolt 2. And
as soon as Drobo ships at Thunderbolt 3, I'm buying, but I'm stuck with what I'm stuck with.
And what about sorry if that sounds very unwieldy, but intermediate storage that you could back up to an intermediate drive that's an SSD, and then move that to the Drobo, or so that the backup itself can go as fast as possible, and then you just move that over.
I can try that.
Yeah.
And then do I just move the files into application support into the iMazing folder?
Yeah, we should. It's better if we have a chat about this.
Okay, yeah.
Support.
Let me send you email. Let me send email.
So that we can maybe ask for me directly for Gregorio, so that you don't first have level 1 support showing you to one or another guide.
All right, and I just have to tell you, with all our emails, it's great seeing your face.
Yeah, it's very nice to see you too, David.
Thank you.
Thank you. Should we move on to the second part of the presentation?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One more comment.
Okay, can you make it brief, because we're going to run out of time?
Yes, the iTunes Match is still in existence, and you still can upload your music and then download it at 256. And if you Google that, it'll tell you how to do it.
Okay, that's good news. Okay, I'll start sharing my screen again. And back to Keynote, to our second category of use cases for iMazing. Simpler workflows. I mentioned this already. It should be possible to just move one item from the iPhone to the computer or the computer to the iPhone without doing an entire sync, without too much complexity. I did demonstrate this already. I can demonstrate another little tool we have called Quick Transfer, which is a fun little one. I'll show you that right now. Okay, so if I want to add content to my iPhone, I can, traditionally, I would think, okay, where do I want the content to go? Is it supposed to go into the Photos app? Is it supposed to go into the Music app? First, I have to decide the target. What we did in an update, I think about 2 years ago, is turn this around its head and say, okay, well, you want to move this picture over. Oops, sorry, my trackpad is not big enough. I can't reach it. Oh, sorry, I have to try again. Trackpad issues. So I'm drag and dropping any kind of content. Here's a photo to the device on the right. And what it's doing is it's finding compatible apps which are installed on the device. And so it starts from your content and then offers you, okay, this is what you can do with it. You can move it to a file manager app, file app here. You could move it to iMovie. It could be used as a texture, a thumbnail, a still, whatever. You could add it to the Photos app as a synchronized album, or this is another document manager app, Documents. So it's really about spinning the problem on its tail and thinking about the content first, and the transfer operation is iMazing's business. It shouldn't be yours. So this is very convenient, and it also works in iMazing Mini. Those of you who know iMazing may know iMazing Mini 2. If you want to make automatic backups with iMazing, the backups will be done by this little guy here. It's a menu bar app that will launch itself every time you log into your Mac and perform the backups automatically for you. What's most of our users don't know is that iMazing Mini is actually quite a bit more powerful than that. And you can take the song, for instance. Does it work, by the way? Yeah, it does. You could take a song and actually drop it to iMazing Mini. So iMazing could be completely, shut down, and you could use iMazing Mini for that purpose. That's very practical. You see now this is a music file, so it will offer the music app. I can also make a ringtone out of it, move it to the Clips app, iMovie again. Podcasts, that's quite a new feature as well. It's the latest feature we've added to iMazing. So you could send an audio file to the Podcasts app or Documents. And by the way, this sounds really simple, but it is far, far from simple, because every Apple service uses different kinds of protocols. So copying a file to an app on the device is reasonably easy. It goes via the Apple file transfer protocol called AFC, but sending it to music is an entirely different protocol. That's a sync protocol. And we have to pretend that we start a sync in order to just add one track. And then Photos is yet another one, and ringtone is a bit different. So it really isn't that straightforward, and iMazing does all that work to abstract the complexity away and to let you focus on where do you want your content to go. Of course, today for modern Mac users, this doesn't sound as appealing because we have AirDrop. But bear in mind that iMazing also exists on Windows, and for Windows users, being able to send content to their iPhone and iPad that easily is really, makes a huge difference, much more than for Mac OS users. I'll return to the keynotes. Do I have anything here? Yes, drag and drop, manual transfers. Perfect. I'll take a couple of questions again then. Anyone?
Doesn't sound like it.
Okay, I can.
I've got a question.
Sure.
It's Pete here from the UK. I understood that your software can also interrogate the iPhone to see if it's got Pegasus NOS software on it. That must be quite interesting for a lot of paranoid people.
Absolutely. So I'm glad that you mentioned it, because we, by policy and by my own policy, which I've insisted a lot on, we do not advertise this feature. Because we do not want to be seen as trying to make money out of paranoia. We leave that to other less scrupulous software makers. We added this Pegasus detection tool because Amnesty International released an open source methodology for detecting Pegasus, and we were really in the midst of the scandal. And we were frankly scandalized by what happened. The three business partners and developers at the head of the company, all three of us, I told the other guys, hey, isn't this absolutely terrible? And look at this, Amnesty released open source code. I've had a look at the code. We could probably, all three of us just rush on this project and re-implement that in iMazing, put it open source as well as a free part of the software, which could really help potential victims around the world find out if they've been infected or not. Because Amnesty International's tool is very difficult to use. It's really meant for technologists, for IT professionals, digital forensics experts. On the other hand, with iMazing, all you have to do is click on detect spyware, and iMazing does everything for you. So yeah, it's something we care deeply about, and we're committed to having the tool in iMazing as a free tool, anonymous. You do not need to subscribe to anything in order to use this tool. Wherever you are in the world, on Windows or Mac, you can just download iMazing, run the spyware check. We don't want your money, we don't want your name, we don't want your email. It's a real commitment to doing at least one thing that's for the common good. Did you want to? I just wanted maybe to show in iMazing how this is displayed, also to illustrate how important the UX of it was for us to not also take the glory away from Amnesty, because really it's Amnesty International's work and not ours. So yes, I was extremely careful when we designed the UX around this. Basically, my two colleagues, the lead developer and the CTO, and we just worked for 2 weeks nonstop on this, and released as quickly as possible because time was really of essence. The longer the time between the release and Amnesty International's open source publication, the more likely it was for NSO group to, wipe their traces and to remove the spyware from devices. So it was really important to go fast. And we didn't sleep much. We had a 2-week sprint in early August. And we were very, very excited that iMazing was the perfect tool to take Amnesty International's methodology and make it available to the entire world and not just to experts. So yeah, that's the presentation screen. We have a lot of disclaimers there. because we only detect known spyware following Amnesty's methodology. It's not because you run a spyware tool and iMazing doesn't find anything that there is nothing on your iPhone. It's very important to understand that it's only looking for known threats and specific known threats at that. So we have this learn more button that points to an article on our website, which details all the limitations of the tool. So we're really not claiming that we're protecting you. It's really about this particular thread, the Pegasus threat, and Amnesty's tool. And then you can customize. Yes?
Does it work on Android as well? You mentioned iPhone.
No. It works by analyzing files from the backup. And Android does not have a standard backup protocol like iOS devices have. On Android, it's actually much more difficult to access files because they haven't sorted properly, and the only way to have access is to go into developer mode and to expose your entire mobile device's file system to anyone, basically. They don't have the secure pairing system that Apple put in place for iOS, which lets you exchange files between the computer and the phone. So Android is a bit of a tough nut to crack when it comes to data security. So yeah, this is it. Once you run the tool, well, we ask you to encrypt your backup if you want. That's for even more security. And then we have disclaimers that we require you to tick. These are similar disclaimers that Amnesty has in place in their licensing. We've published the code open source on GitHub as well. We really followed the same license as Amnesty did for that particular module of iMazing. And you're more than welcome to scan your device, which will probably come out clean. Just yesterday, we received the result of a scan from an infected user, and the scan was extremely clear. We output a CSV file or an Excel file, and it was extremely clear, contained all the malicious process names. The individual had been infected in February 2021, and up until April, we could see signs of activity. So yeah, if you do have Pegasus, it will show up. If you have another piece of spyware on your phone, it may not show up. And yeah, that's all I can say. Again, it's not a commercial feature, but it's something we're proud of doing nevertheless. Okay, shall I move on to the next chunk of my presentation?
Thank you.
So it's 8:30. I believe we have one more half hour. Is that correct? Okay. So I'll share my screen again. So I'm jumping between the different modes of presenting. There we go. So zero sync, that was covered. Data ownership and portability. This is a very important one to me. Is your data really yours? If you cannot access it directly, if you don't have any pregnancy on it, if it's not actionable, more and more big companies are trying to simplify our lives, but also to keep us hostage. When everything is too simple, when everything becomes a service that you have to pay for every month, it can become a bit dangerous. There's no transparency. All the data is just accessible through nice UI, but you never know how exactly is it stored, in what format it is. Is it portable? Can I download all my data and make sure that it's deleted from the servers? Can I move it to another service or not? Transparency is very important, I find, in order to be able to trust those services. I'm not personally anti-cloud. I have iCloud photo library on my iPhone. I don't advocate against clouds, but I advocate for transparency. And with iMazing, you are able to see, okay, well, my photos are stored in a database. That's the format of the database. This is what it looks like. These are the data points stored about me. It just gives you direct access to the nitty-gritty of how iOS works, how Apple stores your data, what exactly is stored and how. That's for the transparency. And then you have portability. You scroll your messages on your iPhone, but it's not actionable data. It's just a UI that presents, visually presents a representation of the communications you've had with your friends and family. But what if you want to start searching through it, running filters, queries, making it into, imported in a spreadsheet? If data isn't portable, it's not really yours. If it's stuck on the phone in one single format, your sense of ownership is reduced as well. So ownership and portability go hand in hand. And in iMazing, we try to have these export options for the data that we display. When you see something, usually you can export it in at least 3 formats. So we have CSV, Excel, and PDF, and plain text often as well. So wherever we can, we try to provide these export formats. I'll demonstrate that just afterwards. This has lots of applications in professional contexts mostly. We see lawyers, for example, who use our call history export to Excel feature simply to bill clients. Once they finish their week, they export the call history to the computer. Okay, well, this is how much time I've spent on calls with this and that client, and they can bill accurately according to a ground truth. You can find also forensics experts who we are used by a US attorney named Craig Ball, who's a forensics expert and who teaches with iMazing. He's been using it in an interesting air crash case recently, where he was exporting all kinds of data to the same spreadsheet to recoup data and to make investigative use of iMazing for the purpose of fighting resistance from the insurers in the context of that plane crash, and of proving that the victims of the plane crash were actually innocent, that the pilots did all that he could, and the crash wasn't his fault. So all sorts of data points could be extracted and made actionable and actually make a difference in a real world use case. And then there's private use, archiving memories. We mentioned printing a booklet of messages. Also, if you archive stuff, if you print it, if you store it as a PDF, you can make more space on your phone, for one. You can just say, okay, well, I've exported all my messages to PDF. This is stored in 3 copies in the cloud. Fine, I can start over, and I won't have 20 gigabytes of messages again on my phone, eating up space for nothing. That's also a perfectly legitimate use. So I'll jump back to iMazing and show you what I mean by data portability in terms of the export options we have. Let's go to the call history. So it's pulling the data from a backup, from the latest backup of the device. Because the backup is encrypted, the first time you access data that's stored in the backup, it will take longer because iMazing needs to decrypt the manifest of the backup. I'm getting a bit technical, but basically Apple's encryption scheme is very serious, and it takes at least 10 seconds just of computing power to to unlock the encryption keys, which will then let iMazing decrypt the files.
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, I'm sorry about that. Hopefully what I was saying was interesting nevertheless, without the illustration. Okay, thank you for not letting me talk for half an hour, as if I was presenting with screen sharing. Okay, so I loaded my call log here. I can multi-select, select everything, or just one item. Drag and drop, as usual, works just fine. If I select everything, export to Excel, again in the downloads folder, and that's done. Let's check the results. And there you go, you have a table of the call history. This is not the most interesting data set. We'll move on to messages. So you can do this with messages, with contacts, with calendars, with Safari history, bookmarks, notes, just about, you know, all the data sets that the phone stores. Here you have a very interesting conversation with my credit card verification service with two-factor authentication to confirm payments. At least it's not very private. No risk of landing on a steamy message here. So you can select as many messages as you want. Again, drag and drop works just fine. It will produce a PDF. You can select multiple conversations and produce a PDF with this, export to PDF. You have some options here to add metadata to the PDF exports. Here, I'm going to produce 3 split PDFs of the 3 separate conversations. You see how fast it's working. And these are pretty big conversations with quite a few photos, I believe. Okay, and we're done. That's it. Oh, sorry, I had forgotten. I did not choose the split export, but it's just one PDF with all the content of the multiple conversations. So you see the export includes the thumbnails as well of all the photos. And if I shared a vCard, it's there as well. It's very precise. And pagination is correctly done. And pages, oh, there's lots of nice looking food there. Yeah. In the footer, we have metadata about the circumstances in which the PDF was produced, the phone's name, the serial number, the date, with iMazing, and the date of the database from which the messages were extracted. So yeah, this is our PDF export feature. Okay. Is there something in particular that you'd like me to demonstrate while we're in this topic of data portability and export formats?
I do have a question about what is the difference between file app and files?
Okay, so this is an embarrassing one for us. File app was one of the first file manager apps on the App Store. I think we released it in 2009 or 10, way before Apple released files. It was a simple file manager app that let you organize files in folders and listen to audio files, record new ones, text files, PDFs, whatever. It was a tiny app we developed at the time, and then it became free, and huge software developers like our friends from Ukraine, Riedel, started coming out with much better file manager apps. Riedel file manager is the best today on the market. It's called Documents. They had like a team of 20 people just dedicated to that one mobile app. And we just couldn't compete anymore. And File App was sadly removed from the App Store about a year and a half ago. I actually began work for DigiDNA on File App. That was my first job when I joined the company. So, and Files is Apple's Files app, which we can't really access everything from the Files app. It's a bit of a misnomer because sadly, when Apple released the Files app, they didn't open up the what we call technically the container of the app. They don't open it up to iTunes Finder or iMazing, so we cannot access the Files apps, the Files contents directly. But basically, this, if you go via the backup, you can see the contents of the Files app. The downloads folder is here, and You have a trash folder? I'd never seen that. Okay, that's news. And then you have all the apps which do store documents. You can browse the file system of all these apps, the Numbers app. So basically the Files app is this app that shows you files from other apps. It's a bit complicated, but yeah. Frankly, we wish that Apple hadn't made the Files app at all, because it just confuses everybody. And we would probably remove it from here in iMazing 3 at the latest. Any other questions?
They're very quiet. Let's carry on. Thank you.
Okay. Back to the keynote. Smarter local backups. Yeah, backups have become a huge thing in iMazing. In the last, I'd say, 5 or 6 years, they started to become very important to us because of how most of the data that iMazing can display is pulled from a backup. That's the case for messages. It's the case for the call history, for WhatsApp messages too, for notes, calendars, contacts. Quite a lot of data can only be retrieved from a backup. So first we started backing up the devices to show the data within the backup. And then this really nasty problem crept up that people would, or users would back up and say, okay, well, I have a backup, it's fine. And I can see my messages in the backup. Now I can delete all the messages from the phone. And then they back up again and all the messages are gone from the backup as well. Because this is how iOS backups work. They're just a single image of the states of the iPhone or the iPad at a given moment. So it wasn't iMazing's fault, technically. If you would do it with the Finder, with iTunes, it would be exactly the same. But because we were using the backup to display data, it was even more likely that the user would not understand that a backup is not cumulative, that it's just a single image, and would end up saying, okay, well, the messages are in iMazing, it's fine. Let's just delete them from the phone and back up again. And that pushed us to develop a backup versioning system. If you back up with the Finder, you get a single snapshot of every backup. If you back up with iMazing, you get to choose how many snapshots you want to keep. 1 month of snapshots, or 3 months, a whole year, all of them if you want, so that you can then go back in time and browse the state of your iPhone or iPad just as it was 2 months ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago, a kind of time machine for iPhone. This was also absolutely required, this versioning layer, if we wanted to have any kind of automatic backup, again, for the same data loss potential. If the backup is automatic, and if there's only one image of the backup, the user may not be aware that you just deleted something from the device and the automatic backups kicks in, and now it's also deleted from your backup, and oh no, everything is lost, both the backup and the original data. So yeah, versioning was a pretty huge deal for us, and I'll show you how that works right now. So I have my backup accessible here. I can see that the backup is made of multiple snapshots all the way back to the 24th of August. All I have to do is double click here, and iMazing switches in backup browsing mode. And now if I click on messages, I will access messages in the very state that they were on the 24th of August. I'll also start loading photos from the backup already, so we can go faster. It will keep loading them in the background. Yeah, so this is what was happening on that date. The last message I had received was from Facebook. Again, authentication, 2FA. Seems like 2FA is occupying a lot of space in my life. That's very true. I think it's true for most of us these days. This is a bit nicer. You can see a few pictures here and there, links. Okay, so this is what was happening on the 24th of August. Conversations I've deleted since, they would be here in this backup snapshot. If I go to photos, I could go into recently deleted. Now, bear in mind, I'm in the backup. So these are the recently deleted photos that were recently deleted on the 24th of August. So they're not on the phone anymore. I can't even recover them from the recently deleted folder because it's been more than 30 days. So this is like this very interesting safety net. It's not just a backup, but it's a backup with multiple snapshots. And you could decide to keep more than just a month of snapshots, to keep a year of them if you wish. I'll just go back to the connected device. You'll see it's colorful again, signifying that this is the live device and not an old backup version. And I'll show you backup options. So I'm clicking on the options action here. These are the options for this particular device. I've disabled automatic backups these days because I'm running some tests with partial backups, and but you could enable this. So backup schedule, backup daily, preferred time frame. I won't put any. You could put one if you wish. iMazing to only back up your devices between midnight and 6 in the morning. That's possible. And then only backup if there's enough battery. You don't want iMazing to start backing up your phone if it's about to die. And yeah, iMazing will also back up your iPhone via Wi-Fi if it's connected to the same Wi-Fi network as your computer. So especially via Wi-Fi, the backup can eat up a few percent of your battery, 3 or 4, depending on how much there is to back up. So it's not a good idea to start a backup if you don't have enough battery left on the phone. Okay, this little light here switched to green, this indicator. Everything that isn't at maximum safety, every parameter that isn't configured for maximum safety is red here. Backup encryption. This I will never repeat enough. You must enable backup encryption. It's really, really, really something that you should do for many different reasons. But now that the Apple keychain works so well, if you enable encryption for an iPhone, the password will be saved by iMazing in your keychain. It won't be a hassle, but your files will be that much safer. So I would definitely do this. And also you don't back up as much if you disable encryption. The health data isn't included in the backup. So the passwords, I think, of the Wi-Fi networks you connect to, those data points are only backed up if you enable encryption, and that's Apple policy, it's not us. Then you have the backup location. I mentioned this before. The Finder only lets you back up to the Finder backup location. We have this backup location manager here. You can add a backup location if you want. You choose a folder, a drive, a network drive, and you choose it as a location. And then you set your device to back up to that location. Bear in mind that updating the backup location of a device doesn't move the current backups. It just will tell iMazing where to next back up the device. Backup archiving is how much iMazing will keep of these backup snapshots. You can disable this entirely and go back to the Finder behavior of just having a single backup image of your device. You can let iMazing back up forever and just adding snapshot after snapshot until your hard drive bursts. Or you can ask it to automatically clean archived backups. So older backups will be deleted if they're more than 1 month, 2 months, 1 year old. That's possible too. And you can ask for permission before iMazing automatically starts deleting older backups. We've recently added additional security for this because we had 1 or 2 cases at support of users who would back up and then not back up for a year and then start backing up again. And suddenly iMazing deletes the 1-year-old backup because the settings are, just keep a month of backups. Excuse me for the prompt. I'll just quickly answer this up, probably backup encryption related. So yeah, we added additional safeguards that if iMazing is about to delete a very old backup version that is incoherent with your current backup retention settings, it will warn you. It won't just delete it. This will be live in the next version of iMazing. So these additional safeguards that even if iMazing behaves exactly as you've configured it, in some cases it's maybe better to even go further than abide by the configuration and warn users that something old is about to be deleted. Yeah, a backup that's incoherently old compared to your current backup settings. So this will be in the November version of iMazing, November update. Okay, that's about it for backups. There are tons of settings you can access and you can customize iMazing very extensively. I won't go into all the details here. Just to finish up quickly before we can finish with a nice chat. Oh, there's a raised hand. Chris, yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask if you have any videos on YouTube about,
Absolutely.
about the program.
So one thing we did is that whenever you are in a specific data set or option screen or whatever, there should always be a help button in the corner. You click the help button, that takes you to a guides page. And in the guide, you should have a video.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Most guides have videos as well. So I think we have this pretty much everywhere. That was my initiative when I started work on iMazing 2. If you go to options, for instance, and you click here, getting started, okay. And if you go into a more specific option screen, you should get, yeah, if I go to backup archiving and options, yes, backup archiving options, this still works, perfect. So
I
yeah.
have a question.
Sure.
Hi, Gregorio. This is Sheeta Hunter. How are you doing today?
Oh, how are you? Nice to see you.
I'm doing great. Great. Good to see you as well. I recently purchased an iPhone 12, and I didn't even think about my backups that I have for my iPhone 7. And every time I plug in and open up iMazing, it just sort of gives me a prompt. It's looking for that iPhone 7. Should I just throw those backups away because I'm assuming that I can no longer access them?
Oh no, you should be able to access them. So the kind of prompt you would get is, do you see like iMazing trying to reach the iPhone 7 via Wi-Fi here?
Yes.
Okay, you can just right click and click forget.
Okay.
Or select and in the actions menu, forget is the last action. Forget means just iMazing shouldn't consider that this device belongs to me anymore. Stop looking for it, remove the pairing, and when you forget, iMazing will ask you if you want to remove the backup as well. And that's up to you. If you want to keep the backup, no. And you see that now that my iPhone has been removed. This is my personal iPhone. You see that it's appearing in old backups. Because iMazing doesn't consider it as a device that it can reach anymore. It probably doesn't belong to me anymore. So it's a backup. It's not a device anymore.
Oh, and even though I still have them and no longer have that iPhone 7, I can still go into those backups and pull information? Okay.
Absolutely.
Great.
Absolutely.
That's a great question. And I do have one more if you can.
Absolutely.
I recently with the iOS 15 updates, some of the developers updated their apps, and one app is now absolutely horrible where it used to be great. Can I go back and pull that old app out?
Yes and no. It would have required some anticipation from your part, which I know doesn't help much. Sadly, in the app management screen we have, oops, Lila, sorry, my daughter just came to say goodnight. So we are only able to download the latest version of the app. Maybe I can illustrate this. I have to reconnect my phone for that. I'm sorry for this. Lila.
No problem.
À toutes arrive, je te dis bonne. Sorry about this. Okay, so I'm going through the trust prompt here to reconnect my device to iMazing because I clicked forget. So this removed the security pairing between the computer and the device. I went through pairing again. I don't need to back up because I already have a backup. iMazing asks me because it's the first, well, because I've just paired the device as a convenience. Now, if I click on Manage Apps, this loads the app library, and I could choose to download an app to the library to keep the current version of the app. So if, for example, I don't know what I would like to download. Let's look at AccuWeather. Okay, is there maybe an update available? I can check for updates. And yeah, there's an update, version 14.15, and it's getting downloaded right here. So you see, I have all these different versions of AccuWeather, and I've hanged on to them, so I can reinstall the previous versions. Sorry, I'm just going to close the door.
Okay.
But sadly, we cannot. The way we connect to Apple's server, Apple will not let us download previous versions.
Okay,
we can
and
only get the latest available version.
Okay, and even on my backup, I couldn't pull it from my backup. It's not available really
No,
there as well.
because the backup doesn't store the IPA itself. This changed in iOS 9, actually. It used to be that the backup iTunes would extract the IPAs and store them as well. And iMazing could do that as well. But in iOS 9, Apple closed that door off.
Okay.
One of the reasoning behind it is to encourage people to just always get the latest updates because of security reasons.
Okay, great. I understand. Now I know how to manage better. Thank you so much. I appreciate your answer.
Gregorio, we have two raised hands at the moment. Billy McKee, would you like to unmute?
Yeah, I'm unmuted. Gregorio, I just wanted to check something. I had an iPhone which the screen field, it was the digitization layer, and I had it backing up to iCloud. Screen replaced, loaded it up, and lots of apps didn't come back, and messages in particular were lost using iCloud as the default backup. Does iMazing prevent me running into that if I use it in future to stop that worst case scenario?
Well, hopefully, yes, it should definitely. Cloud services can be more finicky, especially if you know how iCloud backups work. You have the iCloud backup, which is essentially nearly the same as an iTunes backup, but to iCloud. They're very similar in structure, but with tons of caveats. If you enable iCloud Photo Library, then iCloud Photo Library takes over and the photos are not included in the iCloud backup, but are synced separately in the iCloud Photo Library service. Similarly, if you enable iCloud Messages won't get backed up to the iCloud backup anymore, but will be synced as part of the iCloud sync service. So you have all these little rules and caveats that aim at preventing data duplication in the cloud. Excuse me. So what could have happened in the case of your messages, if you, for example, had enabled iCloud messages, then the messages would not get backed up to your iCloud backup. And if in the new phone you wouldn't enable iCloud messages, but would restore the iCloud backup, then this could happen. And then you have the cases where just something went wrong. There are bugs and your messages got lost along the way. iMazing here will give you at least the assurance that the data is there. It's in the backup, and the backup is there for you to browse. That's something when I talked about transparency earlier and the sense of data ownership. If you do an iCloud backup, what assurance do you have that the data is actually there and that it's sane, healthy? if you make a backup with iMazing, you can actually just look at the data, display it, look at the files behind them, and see.
So
okay, well, it's
if
there.
I run into this scenario again, if another phone fails on me, then if I'm running iMazing, then regardless of what I bring back from iCloud, if I'm running iMazing as a backup strategy, then I can go in and check the stuff and bring it back.
Yeah.
Do I have to run
Be careful.
iMazing instead of iCloud or as well as?
You can have both. That's not a problem. You just have to be careful with one thing. A backup is a backup. It's meant to be restored entirely. You cannot say, okay, well, I'll just restore 2 messages and 1 photo. And
No, I'm not thinking about that.
so, but you don't need to replace iCloud. You can perfectly well use both. What will happen is when you, for example, imagine you have iCloud photo library enabled. If you restore your iCloud backup to a new device, all the iCloud photo library, the photos will not get restored. You will just get the thumbnails, and gradually over the next few days, the photos will get downloaded as you go. If you restore the iMazing backup instead, iMazing backup will restore all the photos that were in the backup immediately. So you get those kinds of benefits, but it will still sync to the cloud if you have iCloud photo library enabled. This is a per service setting. iCloud for messages, for photos, for notes, for all the main apps that can get synced via the cloud. But everything is compatible with the use of iMazing. There's no reason to choose one over the other. You can do both, and you should, in my opinion, do both.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Frank, you have a question.
Yeah, I know we're running out of time, so you don't have to give a long answer to this, but I'm just interested to know what your relationship is with Apple, what they think of you, and whether they are infuriated by you or whether they are quite happy to work, for you to do what you do.
First of all, it's been a long time already. During our very first years, we did not know what Apple thought. We thought they may be, a bit reluctant to let developers operate in the space we operate in. And with the years, it just turned out that they don't really care. And in our case, we think they have a few, have gotten a few hunches that they actually pretty much like us because we play by the rules. And we really try to help their customers. At the end of the day, we do a lot of tech support that Apple could very well provide as well. And we do the stuff that they don't want to do anymore. They don't care about the local data management backup thing. They're pushing for everything to be in the cloud, for everything to be a subscription service. All the nitty-gritty of a local file and data management isn't really their business anymore. And I think if we play by the rules, and that's what we do, and if we protect our users' privacy adequately, and that's also what we strive to do, Apple has been perfectly happy so far and seems to be happy as of today with our existence. And we've also had a few contacts recently with that I shouldn't talk too much about in public maybe, but we're more and more operating in the business side of iOS device management, configuration of devices. And we have had a few contacts with Apple teams who are in charge of helping big companies adopt Apple devices at scale. And they have been leveraging iMazing's capabilities to help them with that. So we know that they don't just tolerate us, but some of the teams at Apple actually use iMazing from time to time as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mitch Briers, we probably ought to make you the last question of the evening, given that we're now at 7 minutes past 9, but fire away.
We can't hear you, Mitch.
Mitch, you're muted.
Okay, quick question. She'd asked about restoring apps, and I thought you said that when the Fortnite was, when they banned that from the Apple Store, that you could go into your backups and you could get it back again. So I'm a little confused because when you talked to her, you said, well, you really can't get your app back.
This is a bit of a special case. what I said is you cannot get a specific version of the app back. We are always able to download the latest version. That can work. And in many cases, even if the app is removed from the App Store, according to Apple's policy, if you ever owned the app, well, you should still be able to download it. And somehow something stayed that way on their servers, that we're still able to, even if the app is delisted, we're still able to download and install it. But only if you've acquired it with your Apple ID already. We cannot install Fortnite on someone's phone who's never actually downloaded the app before.
So if I restored from iCloud and I get these pop-ups that say, well, these 4 apps are no longer available, and I go ahead and restore without those 4 apps, I could go into iMazing and pull those back in.
You could try. It would work. It could work for some of them. Not for apps which are 32-bit apps, obviously. They just don't work anymore. So it will depend on the compatibility status of the app, on also why were they removed. This we don't really know in advance. It depends on the status of the app on Apple servers. So we know it worked for Fortnite. It works for File App, for example. I'm still able to install it and to download it, even if we removed it from sale. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because if you've purchased an app, even if the developer removes it from sale, it's still your prerogative to download it again. You know, you've acquired it. So, but I couldn't answer your question without actually trying, having the app in question, the bundle ID of the app, and just giving it a go. You can try it in iMazing for free, actually, because this is the app management feature is entirely free. You don't have anything to pay to use it. So just download iMazing, go to the Manage Apps section, and try to look for your app. I'll just demonstrate quickly how that's done. If we have a last minute to spare. So when you're in the library, iMazing will list apps that it detected on your phone. If the apps are not installed on your phone anymore, it won't find them. So you can click on Add from App Store, and here, My Lost App. And this will display a selection of apps, and you can try to download them. If it doesn't find it,
thank you.
And if it doesn't find it in that way, you may be able to extract the app from a backup, but just the app data, and then iMazing can retrieve enough metadata to try to download the app as well. Get in touch with us at support if you have trouble. We can try to help.
Thank you. Excellent presentation.
You're welcome.
Fantastic.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much indeed, Gregorio.
My pleasure.
Outstanding 90 minutes. I'm a newbie. I purchased a copy, but only relatively recently. So this has been, for me, this has been incredibly, incredibly helpful, and can't thank you enough.
Thank you. The one very last thing I wanted to say, well, besides thanking you thanking you all for being so patient and for having me here, is just to remind you that you do not need iMazing. We see sometimes users who try to, find a use for it because it's nice and they want to. If you're happy with how things are today, you don't need it. You can just back up with it as a safety net, but you shouldn't be trying to, find a hammer for that nail, or I don't remember which way around that expression goes. If you have a problem, iMazing can help. But chances are you're very happy with iCloud, and that's totally fine. So please don't take the presentation as like, you should absolutely use this app. You should use it if you need it. If you don't need it, you'll start to just go muck around in your file system, delete files, and that's hopefully not. But chances are you don't need it. But if you need it, we're always here. And if you have stuff that you know you should be able to do, but you can't figure out how, chances are iMazing could help.
Gregorio, your marketing skills need work.
Yeah.
It's called the Swiss marketing. Honesty being the very first value.
Touche.
Oh, can I also congratulate you on since we had our very first meeting on Zoom, this is only the second time that we've had a meeting disturbed by a small child coming into
only the second
space.
time. Okay.
It's usually cats.
Like mine.
Well, the cat was better behaved than my 5-year-old girl today.
Well, thank you so much for giving up your time for us this evening. Hugely
You're welcome.
appreciated.
Thank you, everyone.
Ladies and
Thank
gents,
you.
please unmute
Great.
and
Great
show
job.
your gratitude.
Thank you, Gregorio. Good to see you.
Good job.
Thank you so
It's
much.
very well done.
Gregorio.
Thank
That
you.
was
Thank you.
brilliant.